Can't have speed if you don't get treed. We got to be about 40 feet up.
Rad is short for radical. We get radical out here.
We're all here for the same reason, to get out there, have a good time, ride the boards, relatively cheap fun. What he's doing is taking the slack out. He's going to put his left foot up on the board first, and then balance the board with his other hands, get up on it, and kick the board out into the current.
It's great. It's probably the fastest acceleration that you can get out of anything. You know, I mean, there's people that spend thousands of dollars buying horsepower to accelerate to what we got.
As he's just sinking the board into the water, he's using the current of the river to stretch out that surgical tubing.
I can get a 360 in.
Backslide.
Whale tails.
It's just hanging out with the people, having fun.
We invent new moves, you know, every year, and that's how the sport evolves. You know, new moves, new systems, you know, better sized boards and stuff. So it just kind of changes year by year by what people, by the challenges of what people want to do on their board.
What you see here today are going to be the best riders that we've found so far in the United States, possibly in the world.
I'd like to see it evolve into like the X Games type of stuff.
If you're a local, we're going to go places that maybe you don't go.
And the visitors who take the tour there, you know, they're not looking for the postcard picture of Seattle. You don't know how people are going to react?
Today it's not so edgy, the things that we talk about. We wanted to kind of get our edge back, and there's not much more we can do in the underground. So we thought, let's hit the streets, let's talk about some of those stories that don't get talked about. Let's talk about some marginalized people. Let's look at the city from the edges.
The Oregonian's headline after Crefeld was shot was "Holy Roller shot down like dog."
We're going to be talking about subcultures of the city, so we talk about the Chinese population.
So we're really in the heart of the International District, which really is a terrific neighborhood.
We talk about the jazz scene.
Seattle really is famous for having a rich music history. And Jackson Street was a big part of that.
We talk about gay culture and how Pioneer Square was the first gay neighborhood.
The businesses along Broadway always like having the gay pride parade down their part of town in the most gay neighborhood in Seattle.
Some of the sadder moments in the city's history, you know, some of the stories end like, and then they died.
Most of you probably know that Kurt Cobain did take his own life, and his home, where he took his life, was along this stretch of road, Lake Washington.
It's always fun to explore the other side, and this is definitely the other side.
You know, it's not your average tour, but it's a pretty spectacular tour as well.
Fire destroyed a part of history in this East Everett neighborhood today and nearly took Paul Kinderchuk's aunt, too.
No, she's a fighter.
Paul's 86-year-old Aunt Helen, who lives by herself, smelled smoke, then somehow crawled out a window before her home went up. She fell 6 feet, but survived with just a few scrapes. Paul's glad she's alive, but seeing her 1920s-era three-story home in ruins is devastating.
A lot of people wanted it, you know, and wanted to keep it in the family, and we were going to preserve it, and see it go up in flames is really a sad thing.
Firefighters poured water on this home in the late part of the morning, a big change from when they first arrived on this scene just before 2:30 a.m. Take a look. At that time of the morning, the flames didn't look too bad, but within minutes, fire had engulfed the entire house. Firefighters saw flames coming up through the first floor from the basement when they arrived. That's when they went on the defensive, realizing they'd risk even more lives going in.
We know then that we can't go in and walk on the floor on the inside and expect to survive.
Firefighters worked hard to save two vintage cars stored here, a 1967 Pontiac Grand Prix and a 1964 Jaguar XKE. But the damage had been done. Firefighters say $400,000 worth to the home and a lifetime's worth of collectibles.
You know, everything she had in her life was in that house.
Now everything is gone, except for an 86-year-old woman with the will to survive.
Who knows, the Lord was looking over her or something.
The neighborhood's called Shamrock Park, but it's not because people here feel especially lucky.
Yeah, we've called this Shamrock Lake a few times.
Make it 5 times. 5 floods in the past 16 years for Stephanie Huber. Floodwaters have taken over her home and about 24 more near the South Fork of the Snoqualmie River. Look at this water line. You can see the water is receding, but a good foot of water is not going anywhere until the rain quits. That water was strong enough to knock over a fridge here and knock out any semblance of normalcy in Huber's home.
And this will not go until the rain stops. I mean, until we have rain that stops, this isn't going to leave the area. So we're going to end up with this lake until that happens.
In all, 20 families evacuated from this Shamrock Park neighborhood, but many people living here in North Bend wonder when it will be safe to return home.
It could have been worse.
Just a few miles away, Victor Funk helped his mother get out of her home and helped pile sandbags over a levee that gave way Monday afternoon. The water line is starting to sink here too, but the Snoqualmie River could remain over flood stage for days, leaving Victor Funk to wait and count his blessings.
Nobody got hurt. It'll dry and
we'll survive.
I work construction, so we can fix it.
It's a fix that will take time as East King County tries to weather one of its worst storms ever with a smile.
Hey, yeah, that's where we live. Want to come?
In North Bend, Brian Callanan, Q13 Fox News.
Come on. You know, we've given up everything for these animals. We've given up our time and pleasure, but I get more out of being with them than you could ever want from anything else. I was doing a exotic bird boarding and animal business. A lot of people knew me, and they started bringing animals to be boarded that I didn't know. And they would say they were going to go to Europe for a couple weeks, and we'd take my bird over Christmas vacation, and they never came back. They were dumping their animals. And now all of a sudden all my pens and bird cages were full of people that were not picking up animals anymore. We had a security gate, and there would be rabbits in boxes and ferrets, and I never locked my car. Twice I came out and found animals in a box on the seat of my car. Now it's bigger than life. In or out, sweetheart? Hey, wild man. So we have almost 300 animals now, 297 animals. This is Jojo. This is Elvis. Peek. This is a game. Peek. Peek. Bang! Come here, Miss Mabel. We want for this place is to go on way, way past my lifetime, hopefully for the next 100 years. So these animals and any animals coming in will have a place to live forever. They just say they're happy to be alive and be safe and be loved. More than anything, be loved. That's all. I think that's all anything in this world wants. Yes, a very good word. You love the kiss. I think he wants to kiss you.
Tim Dowden likes to start fires. Only his fire lights up a 20-year-old Ford Ranger.
It is barbaric, but it works.
This is his answer to the fuel crunch. Wood, fire, and water.
That ought to work for today. We've got fresh air and you've got wood smoke, about 20% carbon monoxide, about 15% hydrogen. And you just mix a little of each and swallow it in the engine and down the road you go.
The idea has been around since World War II.
Everything has to be gasketed. We are dealing with carbon monoxide here.
Dowden brought it back using only what he had.
Wood's a local product. If I was in Iowa, I would probably be running the truck on corn. I'll have to get a better system one of these days.
He fires up 80 pounds of wood pellets in this barrel, runs it through 2 filters, which then makes its way to the engine. It takes a few tries, but Dowden creates enough smoke to run 80 miles.
Is that our electrician?
He raises some eyebrows in the process.
That's pretty impressive.
If you're brave, you can look inside.
But I'd still like him to explain how it runs on wood. That's what I came over to find out.
Dowden doesn't mind the questions. He knows he's a century behind.
Quick opening lid would be nice.
But he's got some questions of his own.
What can you do with what you've got?
They are questions that led him to dig deep into the history books.
I believe that we're going to have some very serious fuel shortages very soon. And this is something that you can do with a completely unmodified vehicle.
Even if that vehicle doesn't always mean a smooth ride.